Joe, just how important, obviously the SEC move is here in just a few days, but how important was it to get some of these athletic contracts finalized, especially Brent's? Just how important is the timing here?
Well, we've been working on strategies around the transition. You've heard the term SEC ready. I know there are things we're going to continue to work on, as we move through the membership of the SEC, but setting certain things in place and creating stability going forward was very important. And talking about the fact that it's roughly 9 days away, we're going to start counting it in hours here pretty soon. But very, very excited to become the new member of the SEC on July 1st. And as you know, we've been talking about a lot more here lately, all the events that are taking place on campus the night before and the day of to celebrate membership in our new conference.
I know President Harris back in January kind of said that these discussions with Brent were for an extension were becoming. How
Right.
important was it to make sure all the assistant coaches were taken care of and compensated fairly before getting to that?
Well, we are proactive about contracts as best as we can. And we're watching market. We're certainly recognizing the performance of our coaches, the role that they play in leadership, the importance of not just talking about stability in the forward thinking and what our program wants to do in tracking toward future success, but demonstrating it. And I think our move in the contract for Coach Venables is a perfect example of that. What he's been doing since he's been on campus for 2 years, and then as we're moving into a new league and setting the foundation in the right place for us to be successful going forward and pursue championships, just like all the best teams are trying to do and the ones that we're competing against.
Well, it's not on here, but on the agenda was Curtis Lofton being named general manager. How big a win is that for you? I mean, trying to figure out this NIL and what your structure is going to be, and what did you like about setting it up this way? And what do you see his role as being, I guess?
Yeah. It's starting with the tenets of our program itself, how we look toward the pillars of our culture, the strategy that we have in place for our program to be successful. The bedrock of any program is the talent, the people. And so from a position like Curtis is now moving into, and recognizing the dynamic world that we've experienced, but what we know will continue to evolve going forward in the area of talent identification, assessment, recruitment, retention, and you're recruiting not just high school players, but portal recruiting is a huge endeavor now. And it's not just something that programs can consider now and then. It is a part of the strategy. Like it or not, we could talk separately about how the rules have changed. Not all of them for the good, but they are what they are. And that's the bedrock of our program, the quality of our teams and the coaches that are engaged in recruiting them. It's just not, it's not business as usual anymore. And so with putting Curtis Lofton in the position of general manager to work, side by side with Woody Glass in his administrative role, one being very focused on all the aspects of the talent and the roster build and how things are changing dynamically, and then all the administrative side that gives Coach Venables, the right, the right structure around him, along with his assistant coaching staff, to be in the best position, to take on the world going forward. It does not mean that administratively and coaches, they're intertwined in a lot of the efforts, of course, but we just needed to create a much more targeted and focused approach to our whole roster and the way it's built and retained, and then considering all the other things going on outside of that, the NIL space, and we have some news coming in that area, but I'm not going to jump the gun and talk about that yet. That'll be for next week. But so
You're
just
saying pre-SEC day?
probably,
NIL?
yeah. But it's just trying to think ahead as best we can. To say that we have every answer, or have everything figured out to a T, that's just not possible the way this world is evolving so quickly. Even some of the ideas that we think are unique and haven't been tested out there, but we're ready to launch. Sometimes by the time you get to launch, the world has changed and you have to kind of pull the reins back a little bit and say, maybe we need to create a little different tactical approach. It's just the way the world is, and we have to stay, flexible and nimble and pivot just to give our program the best possible chance. So doing what we do to put our people in the right position is the biggest key of all. And so all these moves that you're asking about, that you've heard about today, are all geared toward positioning people for success.
Joe, what's it been like to see Curtis come back and be part of the program these past couple of years and now stepping into this role? Have you and, I'm sure Brent already knew a lot about it, but have you and Brent kind of learned some things about him, about why he's the right guy for this job?
Yes. Curtis was never a bashful player when he was here. And, he's a very affable, outgoing. He understood his role, and he embraced leadership in the role that he was in when he was a player. And then if you watched his career in the NFL, he was a leader on the teams that he played. And I think between his teammates and ownership, they all looked at, Curtis's other skills than just the talent on the field itself. And so as he decided to come back to his home state in Oklahoma and be here, because this is where he wanted to raise his family, and Coach Venables, when he came back, identified Curtis as somebody he wanted to bring on his staff. Then in the area of overseeing the Soul Mission, we've gotten to be around Curtis, and he's brings a lot of perspective, and I think his experiences have really helped position him to take on this new role. And he's got the moxie to handle, all the different things that go into it. But he'll be the first to say that, like any of us, you have to continue to be a lifelong learner, because this whole area is going to continue to evolve. He does a lot of work at trying to prepare, talk to people. He talks to NFL people. He's talking to anybody and everybody that has a good level of experience he can draw from to try to bring something special to the job. But as I said, with the other question, that you have to stay nimble and flexible, and he's been good at that. But the biggest part in that role is he relates to everybody. He's a great relationship builder, and he relates to everybody, coaches, players alike. We're now engaging him in the NIL aspect, so he's got to be key in there as representing what's best for the roster. We have rules that are changing before us, so even the first couple of years or so we couldn't do certain things, but now the rules are changing, and we're going to have a court case potentially settled here in the next year. So we're just, again, trying to put ourselves in the best position to continue to help the program be successful, and Curtis will be in a very important role for that.
Joe, it seems to me that if you have someone like a Curtis in his position, and he's focusing on roster valuation and slotting, players for certain levels of salary, if you will, it only seems to make it more legitimate if they can work straight with a collective or an arm. Does the NCAA need to do something to make that more allowable?
Well, I think that's going to change.
Yeah.
And the world is moving faster than some of the rule interpretations could come back out. I mean, let's just face it. That's where people on our staff, to the extent we are permitted to be involved, have to be thinking, because keeping a roster together has never been more challenging. It never has. I mean, especially in the last several months where players can now transfer as often as they want. Again, that goes back to a phrase that I mentioned earlier. It's not always a healthy change, but parts of people want to argue about the flexibility, but then they don't want to talk about, the other side of the equation of transferring as many times. We've now seen, as an example, situations where an athlete is going to their third school in one academic year. There is no way you can tell me that is healthy in the long run. And most likely they will probably change schools at least one or two more times before the end of their career. I mean, there's a downside to it. But it doesn't do us any good at the moment to focus all of the attention on what it's not doing. We've got to be competitive in the space. And so to go back to your point, there has to be an intersection. Now, the actual opportunities for NIL are accessed outside of the program, and the collective is engaged and involved in working directly with the athletes on each one of those. But this is a world where it's a hybrid model.
Yeah.
It's no longer college as we once knew it, but it's not quite a pro situation. We recruit, they draft. A general manager has, in most cases on pro teams, has much more involvement in the talent acquisition, where coaches have a voice, but it's the general manager and the player personnel staff that has the vision for the team, gets the talent, and provides it to the coach to coach. We're not in that environment as pro, so that's why I say it's important for us to have a strong hybrid approach, and that's all being defined as we go, of course, but that's where we're putting our attention to really create not just the efficiencies, but hopefully the effectiveness of what we're doing around personnel. And all those things you mentioned are part of it.
Are there hires that you're ready to make, or do you still have to wait to see how things play out?
Both. So we have made a few more. We've are working through I don't want to say complete restructure, but a refinement of our structure around all of the talent assessment, recruiting, acquisition, continued evaluation, dealing with things that might happen when a player leaves, who's out there that we might be considering.
It's noon. This is their.
Is that seriously?
No, it's noon. This is their.
Yeah, that's
their,
like in Norman.
In
when we
Norman,
get on Saturdays, we get the 12-o'clocker. That sounded like one of those old fire trucks, though.
It's like the crank, the hand crank.
Yeah. So again, I use the word refinement. As we're strengthening the structure and adding some pieces to it.
Joe, does the renewed commitment in Brent's extension kind of speak to the way he's been able to be proactive in some of the things you were just mentioning?
Absolutely. It's a big part of Coach Venables' vision. He is all about the importance of identifying the players that we need to be successful in the world in which we're competing. The culture that they're coming to, the relationships that are built, having strong leaders that not only can help the team overall, that are great in the locker room, but most importantly in his world is setting them up for future success in the world going forward, whether football might be in involved in it beyond their college eligibility, or they're headed into their livelihood. So for us, when we talk about all the different aspects of recruiting, yes, the NIL is important, but just as important is what the sole mission, purpose, and the values that it provides, and the experiences that we create, for the players to develop. So he really believes in that. And may I say that it's having a fantastic impact, because the football team's GPA this semester was the highest in history, over a 3.0. So that's, I don't think the football team's never hit a 3.0 since I've been here. So it's been close. It's been the 2.99-ish, but it was the highest ever. So you can see that they're growing and developing, and really having success in a lot of different aspects of their life, not just in the competition, which we understand is vitally important too. But we want them to be positioned overall as a great young man and person that's people that are going to be successful in life.
I would imagine there were some eye-opening things when Bob first came here, and then you watched the way he built his program. It's a totally different world now that Brent's in. But has it been eye-opening? And is it almost like you feel like he's done a better job building this program, building the culture, the things you're talking about, than he has what he's done on the football field so far?
Well, he's worked for three of the greatest coaches that college football will ever see, and they all were part of doing it differently. Mm-hmm. Played for and coached for Coach Bill Snyder at Kansas State, then comes here and is part of Bob Stoops' first staff, and then goes to Clemson and coaches under Dabo Sweeney, and he's been able to see people-driven cultures that are focused on, the key and most important elements. And so in getting into this role himself, he's taken the best from everybody and made it his own. And now you see and have seen over the last 2 years how he's implementing it and how he prioritizes. And there's no one that has more energy than him. He's everywhere, and where it means that he can positively impact the program overall or the players within the program. And he's done a fantastic job assembling a terrific staff. I mean, there were several people on the staff that were targeted and offered jobs at top 15 programs this off season. And we were able to work with him to retain all of them here. And actually, there was some more activity. I guess the portal never stops in coaching either. But there were some positions that opened up outside of the traditional hiring window this year, and so those programs came strongly after some of our staff, and so we were able to keep them here. And I think that continuity, the acquisition of Zach Alley, but somebody who has been part, of his background too, before being out on his own. You just see that he's focused on how he puts people in the right position to be successful. That is number one goal. And so anyway, I just see that that we continue to strengthen our roster like we are. It's going to give us great opportunity to transition into the SEC.
We're going to wrap up here. Anything else?
Yeah, the raise for Porter, what went into that decision, and what does it say about kind of the direction of the program right now as it hits the SEC?
Yeah, that was, there was a part of the contract that is in place that just the way it was set up because of several things that we arranged, during his hire. He has an automatic increase, and this year it didn't occur. Last year it did, next year it does, but this year there wasn't one in there. It just was a rhythm in how we made the comp schedule come together when his contract was put in place the first time. And we thought, given what our team accomplished this year, it was definitely important to show Coach Moser that we appreciate him and what he's providing in leadership. Of course, we were disappointed not getting into the NCAA tournament, but it took many anomalies that have not been seen in the days leading up to the NCAA tournament to keep us out. We've been either the first team out or amongst the first teams out 2 of the last 3 years. And so as disappointed as we are, we are not shying away from the expectation or our goal of being in the tournament, and once getting in the tournament, being successful. He wants that, he embraces that, and nobody was more disappointed than the team. But you look at the tough schedule that they played, and you look at the number of wins they had against the tough schedule. It was a tournament level team and the tournament profile. But the so-called bid stealers were more numerous than anybody could ever remember. And when we had that tough half of February and March with the injuries, and had a couple of games that just weren't able to close out. Otherwise we were probably not just in the tournament, but well into the field of having a higher seed. And look, we're not excuse makers. It happens. I'm just explaining. We're not going to change our goals. We're not going to change our expectation of being in the tournament. But it just felt like it was the right thing to do, to show him and his assistants that we really appreciate the hard work they're putting into the program, the way they're growing the program itself, how hard he works externally. Nobody goes around and tries to build interest, like he does. We're probably just a month away before he starts his eating tour in the fraternities and sororities and the residence halls, meeting with students again, trying to get them more engaged, and they relate to Coach Moser a lot. He's really worked hard in that area, and we've had quite a few attendance improvements, not just per game, but overall the season this year. So just wanted to show him appreciation for all of that he's done to contribute to the progress in our program, as well as Coach Baranchek, her back-to-back conference titles and what she is doing in leading our women's basketball program.
As I believe a 26-year resident of Norman, I'm talking about myself. You're probably about that long too.
26 years.
Are you 26 too? Okay. How do you feel about the arena after going through the planning commission meeting? You have any other words for people that might be on the fence in the city of Norman?
We're undeterred, and we are very excited and passionate about it because we believe it's good for the city of Norman and Cleveland County. It often gets discussed without connecting the two pieces. It's the synergy of both, the new arena and the entertainment district. It is going to provide something as an experience that we don't have. Some of the cities, even Oklahoma City north to us, has that, because of the arena being in downtown. But the synergy of everything going on, the access, the proximity to the bigger part of our population, and the opportunity to bring three of our sports there. Even bringing our 3 sports there, we're still well under 30% of the number of days that the arena would be available for all other kinds of events, concerts, other sporting events, conventions, shows, any other way that, activities and opportunity to draw people from outside of Norman, that'll be available for all of that. And I think it's really part of the growth strategy for our area. And we know there's been a necessary process in place. We followed it to the T every step of the way. We provided forums. We've been part of one-on-one conversations. We're going anywhere and everywhere where people want to talk about it, and trying to make sure that they have all the available information necessary so they can make great decisions. And ultimately, it's something that needs to happen in Norman now, because it really creates another high level of improvement in a transformative way that goes right with our move to the SEC, which we've called it many times a transformative opportunity. So we believe that the synergy of it all working together is going to pay massive dividends for our communities and generations to come.